Good morning, everyone, and welcome on board this live safari. Isn't our timing just so lucky to see this hyena cub and an older cousin playing about? Called Philemon's Cutline has another den site that's also active with 2 other small cubs. So the hyena here at Djuma are doing exceptionally well. And my name's Scott. If you haven't met me before, I'm teamed up with VM on camera. It's a beautiful day, not a breath of wind at the moment, and it's kind of cool for now. A few very faint spots coming through on its coat. Last time I saw it, it was pitch black, and you couldn't see any of those little spots on its forequarters and around its neck and head. Isn't this awesome? Not too sure how old it is. I'd hazard a guess at over a month now, maybe a month and a week, a month and a half. It'll be interesting to hear what the other guides think, but that would be my guess, just to give you an idea. And I'm told that it does seem like most of the other guides do think it's around 5 or 6 weeks of age. So at least we're all on the same ballpark there. Obviously, we would have had to be inside burrow within this termite mound that they're lying on to know the exact date that it was born. Mom, as you can see, isn't interested in the playing. Neither is the older cousin, but the cub is trying its best ping-ponging between the two. No, if that older cousin does start playing a bit too rough with the cub, it will let out a squeal and Mom will come to the rescue. Mom is one of the prettier hyena I think we have here at Djuma. She's in wonderful condition, no major notches or scars on her body or ears. And very tolerant of her little cub. Earlier on, like now it's chewing on the ear, earlier on it was chewing on Mom's upper gums, her top lip, which must have been incredibly painful. Now, what's interesting with hyenas is that they've got incredibly complex social structures. So this young cub may already be more dominant than carrying on with their daily affairs as if we were not even here. And that is critical, that we cause as little impact as possible on them. Here the cub's learning some very useful life lessons. And wrestling is an important part of hyena life, and wrestling with its older cousin now is going to definitely put it in good stead for future battles when it does grow up. See the giraffe there, VM?
Where is it?
At like 10 o'clock.
I see it now, yeah.
So everybody, just so that you know, if you can still hear me, I've been told that there could possibly be some streaming issues. That's why I'm being quiet, but there is a giraffe moving off, sadly, in an area that it's too thick for VM to show you. But there was a giraffe not too far away. And I've just heard some great news saying that it looks like the stream is back. So if you were gone and now you are back, well then, great. Good to have you back with us. And apologies for that little glitch. But that is the joy of being on a live safari. You do not know what is going to happen, when we are going to find the leopard, when we are going to lose the signal. Or basically what is going to happen at any given stage, no one can predict. We can guess. But you are here every step of the way. What has Mom heard now? Maybe another giraffe moving through the area. I did just say we did have a giraffe moving past. It was difficult for us to show you. It was in the direction that Mom's looking in now. But she's probably just being extra cautious. Sign of a good mother. Even though the cub is very close to the burrow down into the den where it will be safe, it's certainly worth keeping a very close eye out. There's some fork-tailed drongos in the tree above us that are making quite a racket. And it's almost quite a robotic noise they're making at the moment. Oh, well then, Vim, I'm glad we got a glimpse of them. And this has just mentioned that it looks like the little nips being delivered between the cubs looks to be quite painful, and I'm sure they are. So those cubs' teeth are probably little razor-sharp needles, and I guess it's probably causing more damage to its older cousin than the cousin is to it, even though the cousin is much bigger. And like I said though earlier, it's incredibly important for them to be able to rough and tumble and play with other hyenas within the clan, to learn all those vital muscle memories that they will require when growing up. And as I did touch on earlier, it's not only entirely play, it is also ensuring and stabilizing or clarifying social structures and hierarchies within the clan, and that does have to happen from a young age. Well, I did mention that James was out patrolling on foot this morning, and it sounds like he is ready to take you on a short stroll through the wilderness. Enjoy.
Good morning everybody and welcome on the bushwalk. My name is James and on camera today is Andrew with 12 kilograms of equipment on his back, broadcasting in high definition on foot from the Greater Kruger National Park and our small western piece of it called Djuma and Arathusa. Our objective this morning is just to take a walk, see if we can find some tracks. If we find some tracks of something interesting, we'll follow it. Otherwise, we'll just be looking at the little things, the insects and the birds. We'll be having a listen to the incredible sounds all around of the dawn, and it's just the most wonderful dawn. There's the sun, as you could see, just come up, popped up over the bushes there. We had some green pigeons just now. They have pushed on. There's also, Andrew, if you look up there, there's a grey-headed sparrow calling. And they're one of the first sounds that you hear in the morning. I'll just be quiet briefly, you'll see if you can hear it. Here's that one going. Pew, 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 pew. That's the grey-headed sparrow. There are doves calling. There are... What else have we got? We've got hornbills going. There were some sunbirds earlier. And then, of course, the lovely green pigeons. Beautiful. It's the most stunning morning. Right, so we're going to walk through here. Apparently there were reports of perhaps some lions walking past the Djuma Dam cam in the course of the evening. They were, I think, heading in a northerly direction. We're trying to get an update there. So we're going to head through here, see if we can't pick their tracks up. If we don't, there'll be plenty of interesting things to look at. So come on our little walk with us. So as we're going through here, I think let's head across to the inimitable Nat.Geo Smith. He needs to introduce himself to you again, reacquaint you with his enthusiasm, and we'll see you in a little while.
Aufschön! For those of you wondering what that means, that's good morning in Shangaan. My name is Nat.Geo Smith. I have Brian Joubert on camera, and sometimes we're called the Killer Bees. And we are in search of the Queen of Djuma. I found tracks of her heading in this direction, so we're just going to do a loop around the block, make sure the tracks haven't left. And she was left last night after dark hunting, so judging from where her tracks are, she wasn't successful in the first part of the evening. So hopefully she's caught something in this area. So I'm going to be checking very, very carefully. It is a beautiful summer's morning, and I think it's going to be a scorcher today. I'm with Scotty and the hyenas.
Well, not much has changed here. And happy to say that you didn't miss out on anything. Also very happy to hear that Brent has started making some headway on tracking down Karula, that female leopard. And I trust he is going to take the challenge very seriously. Brent loves tracking, as do all of us. And nothing better than being on the trail. Being on the trail of a big cat here in Africa. I touched on earlier that those of you who were on safari yesterday would know that we discovered that another den site here at Djuma is active. And Ellen Fowler, hello, and good to know you're watching, has just asked whether we know if this clan is related to the other clan that's denning off a road called Philemon's Cut Line. And Ellen, I think yes. I think there's a very strong chance that these clans could be interlinked. The den has been used at Philemon's Cut Line, has been frequented by hyena that have been seen here as well. So we've seen a female with a big scar on her back here. She's an older female, and we haven't seen her very much, but I'm 99% sure we have seen her interconnecting and interacting with the members of this kind of den site, and now she's been seen elsewhere. So I think that it could be the same clan. Also, judging by the size of this area, Ellen, it's unlikely that two clans would exist so close to one another within such a small area. But interesting kind of ongoings. We certainly were very surprised by the fact that not only are other hyena females giving birth, but at other den sites. So it's not uncommon for the beta females to give birth in hyena society, but it's usually the alpha females. And if the going's good, then other hyena will be allowed to mate as well. And I guess it could be a time of plenty, and that's why we're seeing lots of hyenas giving birth. And Tiffany in Ohio has just asked, how often will hyena give birth? And it will depend on, whether the going is good, like I've just touched on. So if there's plentiful food and easy meals, you'll find that hyena will be more inclined to give birth, and all animals will be more inclined to mate more often if their job of raising the little cubs or lambs or calves or whatever they're giving birth to is made easy. What's interesting with hyena though, Tiffany, is that they can nurse young up till a year in age. So young will suckle for incredibly long periods of time. And because of that, I guess that may delay the intensity, or not intensity is the wrong word, how often they can give birth, because they do need to nurse their young for so many months on milk before being able to give birth to the next litter. Looks like the cub's tending to mom's toenails now. Better than the upper lip that she was chewing on earlier. And just on cue, we've just been talking about hyenas suckling, and the little cub thought about it there for a second. Ashley's just asked whether hyenas are good moms, and Ashley, I guess just like humans, it's a lottery. Some mothers will be better than others, but I'm sure that the maternal instincts of all of these animals will gear them in that they'll try and care as best as they can for their young. What makes it easy for hyena is that quite often they will only be caring for one youngster, and that is as a result of huge competition between the cubs. What's that one doing at the back there? Is it trying to jump up and bite onto a branch there? Oh, I think it might be. Well spotted, VM. As I was saying that, because the ferocious competition between hyena cubs can result in them killing one another, hyena mothers will often only have to raise one young. And I guess that's one of hyena's ways of assuring that they get the most possible care. Oh, that wasn't a very good example of good mothership, as she kicked her cub over the head. But they are tough, and I don't think we can read into a little bit of rough and tumble being bad motherhood or bad mothership. Now, is mom going to disappear? A little bit of rough and tumble being bad motherhood or bad mothership. Now, is mom going to disappear? She could have now just decided that enough's enough, and now she wants to head off into a shady spot nearby. Most hyena den sites have got a spot very close by, about 30 or 40 meters away, where the adults will sleep in the shade and leave the cubs to play around. But let's just show you one last glimpse of this little cub. I think it could well be that mom is heading away. And when mom does head away, the cub will, in all likelihood, head down the burrow to where it's safe. And then we'll head off and probably give Brent a hand trying to track down Karula. We'll see what else is going on the reserve. Good stuff. Well, I think we're going to leave now, so say goodbye to the cub. It looks like mom's gone, and James has found something on foot that he would like to share with you. We will see you a bit later.
We had a bee-eater, we had a bulbul, but unfortunately they've both flown away, which is very irritating indeed. But there are some very lovely birds calling. Mostly you can hear the white-browed scrub robin going. Isn't that lovely? And some cisticolas. Come over here a second. We did have a Polyrhynchus ant, which I think is a lovely name for an ant. And it's the ant that tastes like a lemon drop. You could eat the abdomen. It's not the kindest thing, I suppose, to do to a Polyrhynchus ant, but they are very tasty indeed. They have also absconded. Andrew, do you see any Polyrhynchus ants around this black monkey thorn? No, they've all gone away. That is a deep and abiding pity. Never mind. I just want to show you why it's called a black monkey thorn, and it's often confused for the knob thorn. Very similar kind of thorns that they have, and you can see the little black tip on the edge of the thorn, and that's why it's called a black monkey thorn. Not sure why monkey, but vicious thorns. Makes no difference to things like giraffe. Elephants will eat them. They really don't care at all. And if you look down the length of this branch here, what you can see is something like an elephant or a giraffe has run its tongue and pulled off all the new shoots. Now, I mean, I just want to show you here. If I put my hand onto it, sorry Andrew, I'm making it difficult for you. You can see it sticking into my finger there. It may even draw blood. I'm going to try and not make this a gory example of living in the bush, but you can see it's pushing right into my finger. It has drawn a small amount of blood. And can you imagine running your tongue over that? If I was to run my hand over the edge of this branch, it would tear the skin off. So how on earth an animal manages to run its tongue over the top of something like this, I don't know. And if you feel a giraffe's tongue, it's actually quite soft, so it's not like it's incredibly hard or leathery. I just don't understand how it's possible. Elephants, of course, have got very thick skin, and they will just they'll just bite into it. Right, let's carry on. Now, Rebecca, you are on dawn safari with us from the depths of Santa Barbara, where it is not dawn at all, and you want to know a little bit about the dawn chorus. Let's just stop here and we'll have a listen. I'm going to take the microphone out of my shirt and see if we can't pick up some decent sound for you. So that bird that you can hear now is the white-browed scrub robin. There's some grey hornbills in the background. Some doves, ring-necked and laughing doves. Proo, proo, proo. Ring-necked, laughing, going proo, 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 proo. Some hornbills, like I said. Some francolins. There was a southern boo-boo going. Such an iconic call for me because it rings down these drainage lines. Somehow they call in a way that it makes it echo. And really nice call of the red-chested cuckoo. Piet my vrou. Beautiful. Thank you for that. That was a marvellous question about the dawn chorus. It is the main reason, of course, to get out of bed at this time of the day is that you get this incredible sound. I mean, it's only just after 5 o'clock in the morning. It's already quite bright, and already the dawn chorus is starting to quiet slightly. It's amazing how early it does happen in the middle of summer. Right, we're going to walk quite carefully along here, and Andrew, if you just shine, if you point your camera along here, this is buffalo dung, everyone. And you can see this little bit here is quite fresh. That's probably buffalo urine. It hasn't had any chance to dry because there hasn't been any sun around here. But that's what that is. So we're going to walk very carefully. There are some buffalo tracks walking along this path. Up ahead, Steph is around. He's just scouting the area up ahead for us. It's always quite nice to have him along. He does spot things amazingly well. And if we just look at over here, this looks to me like it was excavated quite heavily at some stage by an aardvark or aardvark, or probably even a warthog. And you can see very sandy soil here. It's been dug up while the aardvark was looking for termites. It really has been excavated extensively. And here is the tracks of a warthog. And it's quite interesting to see them in this kind of soft sand here. You've got the two normal, are you on the stick, Andrew? Yeah. You've got the two normal sort of cloves or cloven hooves, and then you've got these two back, what they call dew claws, which I think is a really bad way of describing it, but they're the two dew claws that would form the other digits. They're not very fresh. There's a lovely breeze blowing through here now. It's just the most special morning. Right, let's carry on. You're right. So Andrew stepped into this hole. Let's head back. Andrew's not amused. Let's head across to Brent, and I'll strap Andrew up and we'll carry on our way.
So we're busy checking our southern boundary now, and apparently Andrew Francis is not quite used to walking in the bushes, and he's busy falling down holes. I would have paid good money to see that. So the last tracks we had for Karula were coming towards the southern boundary. So I'm checking carefully here. We had tracks of a male that didn't actually come into Djuma, just walked up the boundary and then crossed out. But if the tracks don't come out of this area, there's a strong possibility she's somewhere still in this block. We're just going very, very slowly. Hoping not to spot her tracks. And it is a beautiful morning. The sun's already quite high. Got to go very slowly because there's so much traffic on this road. It can be quite hard, so it can be difficult to spot tracks here. So, Ryan and I sometimes call ourselves the killer bees, and the reason for that is we've seen so many fantastic sightings together. And Mike, sunny Florida, and Frank, who's 7 in Ohio, would like to know, do we get Africanized bees here, or the African killer bee? Well, guys, that is our stock standard normal honeybee. So yes, we do, and that is the normal honeybee. An Africanized bee is what happens when an African bee mates with the European honeybee, which you get in the northern hemisphere. But so our honeybee is the normal African killer bee, is one we see every day. We have quite a few different bee species, probably about 7 or 8 of us that all produce honey, but most of them are actually stingless. They're called Mapani bees or sweat bees. They're small little black bees, and those are the guys that can be very irritating at this time of the year when it's very hot. They like to drink the sweat from your face, and the problem is if you kill one, they release a pheromone that attracts all the others to you. Similar in effect as when a honeybee finds a good source of pollen, they'll release a pheromone that attracts the other bees to that spot, or when they sting as a defense mechanism, also that pheromone is released there to attract the other bees to sting whatever threat is nearby. So, well, speaking of pollination, let's go see. James has got one of the bees' favorite things.
A beautiful blue flower called Commelina, or the wandering Jew. No one can explain to me why it is called the wandering Jew, so if anybody has any idea how this became an Israelite flower, I'm not really sure. Let us know on Twitter, #SafariLive. Remember, you are completely live here on our little bushwalk, or questions at WildEarthTV if you want to email us. Also, on this little plant, well, there are 2 plants here. So there's the Commelina, the wandering Jew here, the blue one, and then there's this little tree over here, and the little tree is called Strychnos madagascarensis, or the black monkey orange, and living on it is a little millipede. Now, we know very, very little about millipedes, of course, and I think that there are probably hundreds of species of them, specializing in different bits of food. Now, as fascinating as a millipede is, I don't believe it's quite as fascinating as a hyena. So let's head across to Scott, who is not a hyena, but he is looking at a hyena, we'll carry on along here. See you just now.
So we've just stumbled upon not one, not two, but 3 more hyena. The third one's just trailing behind these 2 you're watching now. And interestingly enough, another 2 smaller sub-adults were sprinting off to the south. So 5 hyena were in this area, and we're not too far away from the den site. So possibly members from the same clan, but again, there's just so much unknown with regards to the hyenas. Isn't this wonderful though? Perfect morning sunshine. As these hyenas evidently head back towards that den where we have just been.
Morning, Dave here.
After a long night out, and wouldn't it be wonderful to know, I'm just going to reposition ever so slightly, wouldn't it be wonderful to know exactly what they got up to last night? They cover huge distances, hyenas, and are often in contact with animals like lion and leopard at night, trying to scavenge easy meals, but also hunting for themselves. And at this time of the year, when a lot of the herbivores will be quite weak due to the drought, and there's also a lot of youngsters around, hyenas will certainly be doing a lot of hunting for themselves. Good question from Kathy in Tennessee, and interested to know at what age will the cubs start joining the adults in hunts. And it varies, but anywhere from upwards of 6 months, the cubs will start moving out with the adults. Now, it does depend on the individual, and I say 6 months, that's very young, but we have seen, or at least Brent did see, a young cub that we were viewing. Probably it was about 6 months ago that this happened, but its mother took it to a kill where Tingana, a male leopard, had a kill, and we were all hugely surprised at how small this cub was, yet being taken to a potentially dangerous scenario. So more likely that 1 year of age is the more regular age at which you'll start seeing cubs being taken further and further afield into dangerous scenarios, but up until that point they don't really move too far away from the den. Let's see if we can't keep up with them. It looks like one of them is actually headed back towards this road in front of us here that we're heading down, and the others have continued off in a southerly direction. Yes, we're in luck. One's about to cross the road in front of us. There it goes. And there's a very large waterhole that it's heading towards on our right. Look at all those hippos in the water. Little islands of blubber. They're quite chubby animals, the hippos. Although at this time of the year, like most of the herbivores, it is not going to be as plentiful as it usually is. Oh, interesting that this hyena decided to split up from the rest of the clan. Well, you'll see a lot of little fence posts around the waterhole there, and basically what's going on here is that there's going to be some hippo capture, some hippos removed from this area. Where exactly they're going, I'm not too sure, but that's what that is. And you'll see some more structure up to the left where VM is going to be panning off to now, where the hippos will be caught and relocated to another wilderness destination. Go ahead, Brent.
Scotty, there's a large flamingo Nyavi heading towards Sydney's. Abel's with them now and quite close to it.
Oh, copy. Thank you very much. What are you doing, hyena? What can you smell? Why are you zigzagging up and down, backwards and forwards? Again, though, typical behavior of them, and it's wonderful to actually see because they do cover such huge distances every night, and in this case, day. And this is typically how they'll move about, sniffing and swelling, hoping to find something to snack on. Hello to Nicole, who's interested to know how hyena will learn how to hunt and how will they be taught. Nicole, a lot of the wild animals out here have got instinct, which is their key kind of teacher when it comes to hunting, and a lot of things that they'll be expected to do as adults when they grow up. But to a degree, their mothers will play a role and older clanmates will play a role in helping to teach them how to hunt, but a lot will be instinctual. It's the same with leopard and lion. And even though lion and leopard will, again, try and assist in teaching their cubs how to hunt, even a domestic cat born in a city, raised by humans, will have the urge and ability to know how to catch birds. Not all of them, but most will. So that's even a domesticated cat. So you can imagine how the wild animals have got far more instinct ingrained into their bodies. Now, the update that we got from Brent was a good one. There's a vehicle parked at the waterhole that you may have seen from a distance, and there is apparently a very large herd of buffalo on their way here. So that's good news. I'm not too sure how it's all going to work, though. I'm not entirely sure the buffalo are going to be able to get to the water because there's an electric fence all the way around the water's edge now. And the reason they have used this method is it's a kind of passive capture method. By putting the fence around the water, all the hippos will be forced into a little enclosure which is up over there and then be removed. But again, I don't know much about these plans or what exactly is going on, so that's all I've got for you, sadly, on the topic of the hippos being caught. I'm not too sure where the buffalo are that are apparently on the way, but they're going to have a hard time drinking at this rate. Hello, Velma, who's watching on YouTube, and you're obviously learning all the different water holes here on Djuma and Arathusa. Sadly, this one is not on Djuma, that's why we can't take you any closer to it. We can view it from our northern boundary, but we cannot actually drive you any nearer by. And this is called Sydney's waterhole. It's on the northwestern corner of Djuma. Oh yeah, here come the buffalo, VM, top left of the dam. But this is going to be interesting. Like I said, I'm not sure how all of these buffalo are going to drink, or if there are any gaps where there is no fence. So, because I don't know what is going to happen here, and I fear that it's not going to be a successful drink stop for these buffalo, and because we cannot get you any closer to them, I think it may be worth sending you across to Brent for a quick update on how he's coming along, and we're going to wait here a couple of minutes and just work out what these buffalo do next.
We've checked this whole area around. We can't find any tracks of Karula disappearing out of our area, so great news. So now I'm going to head back towards Last Tracks, have a closer look there, and maybe go for a little walk and wander in the bush. Oh, hello. Nice little pair of steenbokkies. There's the male running off, or slightly moving off. Oh, such dainty little antelope. One of the only monogamous antelope we do have out here. And that's the boy, and if we come across to the right, lying down a little bit more. Oh, left, sorry, other right. Between, there you go. There we go, there she is. Hiding in the grass. And they actually bury their feces because they live in such a small little territory that it pays not to advertise their presence. They live in an area of about 4 acres, so very, very small. And also completely independent of water, so they don't need to drink. They'll drink when it's around, but they have no need to actually drink water. They get moisture from the dew and from the plants they eat. And they'll even dig up tubers during the dry season to get moisture. So, let me rephrase. They still need water like most animals. They just don't get their water in the traditional methods. We're hoping Karula managed to catch something during the evening. So we're going to head along here. The last tracks were just over there. I'm sure on this road, I might be able to show you one of them. Quite a nice sandy road that we're going to drive on. And the trick with the Queen of Djuma is to always double check and triple check where you think she's definitely not going. She does zigzag with great proficiency, which does make her one of the hardest leopards to track. And every time you sort of think you've figured it out, and sometimes we have, like sort of where she's going to pop out next, etc. She throws you an absolute curveball and pops out in the complete opposite direction. Quiet, very still, lots of humidity in the air. We're talking about flying things that bite or sting and the African killer bees earlier. Barbara is wondering, what is a mozzie? Well, Barbara, a mozzie is a little colloquialism for a mosquito. So when mozzies are about, mosquitoes are around, and the mosquitoes love me. So we saw her tracks further up on this road. I'm just trying to see if there are any nice ones here in the soft sand. She might have ducked in through the drainage system there. Yes, mosquitoes are very fond of biting me. And if I'm around, everyone else generally gets far less bites. But strangely enough, when it comes to pepper ticks, or ticks, they don't seem to bite me too much. They seem to really like Steph and Jamie. So the squirrel alarm calling just in the drainage system here. While we head towards that squirrel, Julia, who's in Houston, morning Julia, or evening for you guys, would like to know if I've seen any baby steenboks yet. I have, but earlier on in the year, steenbok, unlike impala and wildebeest, give birth at any time of the year. Squirrels alarming in this area here, but there's an impala looking very relaxed on the other side of the drainage. Always pays to listen a little bit when the opportunity arises. Keep scouting the area for the queen. Let's go see what Scotty's up to.
Now this could very well be a new bird for a lot of you. I have never managed to show you one before. It's called a bronze-winged courser. I guess it looks kind of similar to a lapwing, but it's not. It's a courser. You get two kinds of coursers in the Kruger National Park, the bronze-winged, which we're looking at now, and the three-banded. And the reason why we so seldomly see them is that they are predominantly nocturnal birds that feed on insects. But these two have thankfully positioned themselves in a spot where we can see them, or at least the one has. The other one's disappeared off, as is this one now. Awesome. Well, I know a lot of you are working hard on all of your birds lists, and I hope that these two courses have added another notch for a lot of you. They seem to be running around quite excitedly, but I think it's just by our presence that's caused that. Good. Very, very sure that that is going to be a new bird for all of you. I wonder if Brent has managed to find your bronze-winged courser on drive before. I know Brent takes finding new animals quite seriously. He is doing well at the moment, though. He got the European roller. He got the impala lambs. He's got the wildebeest calf. But I'm not convinced he's got the bronze-winged courser. He could well have, though. Time will tell. He'll be sure to let us know. So I'm thinking of probably heading across to Arathusa. We've rigged up the Arathusa antenna, which is usually folded down unless we wanting to get some updates from them. So we are on Arathusa mode and just waiting to get a few updates from them. There's a few little places I want to check on Djuma before we head across though. But those are the plans for a little bit later on. And I just turned the radio on there briefly. We're still a bit far away, so I was just testing if I was going to be hearing clear comms or not. It sounded quite crackly there. So we'll wait until we're a little bit closer by. Morning, Cheryl. And Cheryl's interested to know, how do we not get lost out here? Well, we do, and it's not uncommon for people to lose their bearings. Obviously the fact that there's no road signs or signboards makes things a bit tricky, but you get used to it after a while. The different trees and different parts of scenery become your signboards, so you just have to kind of, I guess, start thinking a little bit out the box in terms of what you use as your markers. Some people are very good at picking up roads. I know Jamie was incredibly quick at learning the road networks here. Took me a bit longer and I'm still a bit rusty on some of the roads, but Cheryl, thankfully we also do have some technology that helps us. We've all got an app on our phones which tells us exactly where we are on the reserve at any point of time, and the names of all the roads where we could be. Eugene, one of our tech wizards though, was out driving around trying to fix something at some stage, and he ended up many miles away from where he was supposed to be on the southern reaches of the reserve, and he was eventually picked up by an anti-poaching patrol. So you do get lost, and it does happen. Also on overcast days and at night time where you don't have the sun or the stars to help you, you could be off-roading, following a lion or a leopard, something exciting, and you're so focused on the task at hand that you forget where you're going, and then it can become a little bit tricky. Thankfully though, in the Sabi Sands we're quite lucky in that the road networks are quite small, relatively speaking. So if you drive in one direction for 10 minutes, you should eventually hit a road, whereas in some reserves and national parks where I've worked, the networks between roads are absolutely ginormous, and once you leave a road it can take you many hours or miles before you get to the next road. So thankfully we don't really have that problem here in the Sabi Sands. It's quite a densely populated area in terms of roads. A lot of great questions are coming through this morning. Thank you very much, and it's great to hear so many new names joining us on safari. Now, James is interested to know if we ever sleep, and no, James, we don't. Basically, there's a whole bank of batteries on the vehicle, and every night or every morning when we get back from drive, we plug the batteries onto charge, and then there's a small adapter that we plug into the back of our heads to make sure we're fully charged. If you look just under in there, there's a little plug point. I'm only joking, James. We do get to sleep. Not normal sleep patterns, I guess. And in the summer months, because we're heading out very early in the morning, to avoid the heat of the day, and because we're only heading out very late in the afternoon, you've generally got about 6 or 7 hours between game drives during the day. Obviously sometimes there's work to be done, but there's also a lot of the time enough time to sneeze in a decent snooze midday. And I guess at night, once we've finished up, we kind of generally get to bed at around 9 or 10, and then we're up at about 3:30 or 3:45. So we're getting about 6 hours of sleep every night, depending, and then a couple of hours extra during the day. So sleep is not a problem, and I think it's one of the perks of working in the safari industry that you generally will be able to have a siesta just about every day, which I quite enjoy. But it can be a low sleep industry, the guiding industry, especially if you're working at a camp where you'll be hosting your guests. Some lodges you'll dine breakfast, lunch and dinner with your guests, as well as taking them out on drive, so you'll be spending a large amount of your day with your guests. But other camps are kind of one meal a day, or maybe 1 or 2 meals in a 3 or 4 night stay will be the required amounts of guest interaction. So it does vary on where you work, but some lodges you really do not get that much sleep. Oh! Just gonna go past it so we get it into the sunlight, not quite, a little bit more. There we go. morning. Well, this little tortoise isn't scared of anything, although it is backing up. This is the Speaks hinged back tortoise. And as you can see, it's not scared of displaying its incredible speed. I don't know who came up with the myth that tortoises are slow. I think that this one is making a meal of this terrain. Good. That would be a more appropriate animal for James to find on the bushwalk, where they can get you a nice low angle on it. But from the vehicle, we're going to be battling to get you better shots than the initial one. Now, there's some zebra tracks on the road here, and I saw the tiniest of zebra hooves earlier. And I just wanted to check if this herd of zebra isn't the same herd that has this tiny little calf. Let me jump out quickly. Hard to see from here, but I'll be able to point out the adult hooves. Here's one here. You can see the kind of distinctive horseshoe shapes. So they're going this way towards the vehicle. I can see one baby hoof over here, so maybe it is the same herd. Sadly, we have missed them though, and it's going to be difficult for you to see, but there's one tiny little horseshoe print here, and another there. So this is the same herd with the young foal, but sadly they are avoiding us. And this area we've driven now, there's no other roads where we can check. But we're going to keep that in mind, and who knows, maybe this afternoon we'll be able to find them. I think James was spending some time with them yesterday afternoon, or somebody was. Hello, Jose in Virginia. And Jose's asked, is it difficult to adapt to city life after being in the bush for 6 weeks at a time? And Jose, if you didn't know, that's how long our rotations typically are. 6 weeks on and then 2 weeks off. So the 6 weeks we're here, we typically work just about every day. That was a pretty bird, but it fluttered away, a cinnamon-breasted bunting. So Jose, after 6 weeks in the bush, yes, it does take a little bit of getting used to traffic lights, as we call them here in South Africa, robots, which is the most bizarre name for a traffic light, but that's what we call them here. And just the amount of people that you get to see in the cities is a little bit overwhelming, but it doesn't take long to readjust, and it's typically quite exciting to be back in the city with your friends, with your family, just having a change of scenery after being here for 6 weeks, doing the same thing day in and day out. Just about everybody that I know, as passionate as they may be about wildlife and living in the wild, after 6 weeks you are ready for a change of scenery, be it to another wilderness destination or to a city. But it certainly does take a little bit of getting used to. There's a very fast pace in most cities, and I also find that most cities, especially the bigger ones, people typically don't have too much time for strangers, whereas out here, if you're driving down the road and you see a vehicle coming up towards you, you ordinarily will always slow down and say hello, have a quick chat, even if you don't know who that person may be. And sometimes I find myself going up to people in the city just wondering what the time is, or, you know, a random question like that, and often getting very strange responses or stares, what people wondering what more do I actually want from them. So those little things, I guess, take a bit of getting used to. Barbara, I'm very glad you asked your question regarding the Speaks hinged back tortoise. And Barbara's not too sure what the hinge actually does or where it is. And essentially all it is, Barbara, is that the top half of the shell has the ability to kind of close. So halfway or kind of 2/3 away down the shell, it's got the ability of crimping ever so slightly, that way closing.
A male leopard in that area yesterday, so just want to go have a quick look around there, maybe some ellies in the area, and then if no luck we'll go back towards those last position of Creel's tracks and try and guess where she's going to come out. I know I've been saying this for a few days now, but I haven't seen lions in so long. So maybe the lions decided to sneak in. Hyena tracks. We're heading almost due east into the sun at the moment. A big apology to everyone out there. The gremlins are apparently playing havoc with our stream, but it looks like our tech geniuses have got it sorted. Hopefully it stays that way for the rest of the safari. Very, very quiet on the mammal front this morning. Big welcome to a new viewer. I am Go. Welcome to Let's Safari Live, and if you're checking this for the first time, loving the safari. Well, hopefully, since it's your first safari, we'll be able to find you a big cat between the three of us out here this morning. And Scotty's working on Arathusa. I'm working on Djuma, and James is also working on Djuma. So hopefully, between one of us, we'll find something absolutely fascinating, whether it be a bug or a leopard. Chatting about bees earlier today, and Jose in Virginia would like to know whether I've been stung by a bee. Many times, Jose. As a young boy in the bush, one of the best things you can find is a beehive, and along with other kids, we would devise any way possible to try raid said beehives, and without beekeeping suits we would devise any way possible to try raid said beehives, and without beekeeping suits we used to try man-made or our homemade beekeeping suits, and invariably one would leave us yelping in pain, right? One of the funnier ones with bees and myself, I was fishing with my grandfather high in the mountains, in the Drakensberg Mountains, and it was the middle of winter, and it does get quite cold up in the mountains. So it was probably around 8 or 9 degrees Celsius. And when it's very dry at that time of the year, quite often beehives will move, so they'll swarm and move to a new hive. You don't really want to be caught in those. And we were caught, and we had to jump into the freezing cold water to get away from them. Fortunately, we weren't stung, but it was very, very cold. A little chin spot batis in this little thorn tree here. A little bit higher. Where's he gone? You got him? Yeah. There, moving. Oh, disappeared. No, there he is, out in the open now, to the right. Here we go, beautiful. Whoa, off he went. Little fly catcher. He's still over there. There we go, Brian's got him. Unfortunate. Oh, and off he's gone. Hopefully we'll get a nice view, but a very pretty little flycatcher called a batis. And one of the most easily recognizable bird calls we hear out here. So just checking down the road. Sits there and calls. 3 blind mice. So with a lot of the birds, they've got some interesting calls and interesting ways to remember them that I got taught as a kid. And a lot of it is association. So as we drive, you see quite a few little dark patches on the road, and Susan would like to know whether it's dung or feces. Some of it is, but a lot of it is just sticks. And these little dark patches here are all little where new termites are trying to dig down and start a new colony. After the rain, all the future kings and queens trying to set up. And wow, we carry on in this area. Let's go to Scotty, who's got one of the predators of the sky.
So this is a Wahlberg's eagle. It is perched quite low down, abnormally low down, and I'm wondering what's got its attention here. There is a termite mound below it, and it is looking straight down, so who knows, maybe some reproductive termites are about to leave that mound, and they do form one of the major food sources that causes a lot of these birds, like the Wahlberg's eagle, to migrate back to South Africa for the summer bounty. A black cuckoo calling next to us. I'm so sad. Now a woodlands kingfisher. Chick. And a wonderful time of year for bird watching, as we've got twice as many birds as we would normally have in our winter months when the migrants are not around. So no major updates on Arathusa. We are here now. This is Red Dam over to my right. Not too much water in it at the moment, but it was completely dry just over a week ago before we got some new rain. So at least there's a little bit of water here now. But it certainly does emphasize that we are going through a drought at the moment. A lot of these water holes have not been this low in many, many years. I've only been in this area for a year now, and when I arrived around the 20th of November last year, there was certainly a lot more water around than there is at the moment. Now, the Warburg's eagle flew off and landed nearby. It's quite a nice angle to show it because it's got its little crest erected. Now, it's not always evident, this crest. And I also stopped because there was a fork-tailed drongo, a very small bird that was mobbing it. It was flying around trying to peck it on the toe. Oh, here it comes. Awesome, look at this. And I know Monkey Man was asking just to double check or confirm the name of this bird. It's a Wahlberg's eagle, W-A-H-L-B-E-R-G-S. Oh, it's two of them now. Isn't this wonderful? And it's probably going to have to fly off and go elsewhere. There we go. And they'll chase it. Now, let's hope it gets a little bit higher up so VM can continue filming it. Here it is in front of us. Great work there, VM. And those fork-tailed drongos are not letting it get away easily. Isn't that awesome? A little bit of a David and Goliath battle. You can probably hear the crackly Arathusa radio coming through there, sadly, with no useful messages for us at this stage, but there are a few people searching around, and the more people they are working these areas, the more chance they have of finding something. And it's critical that we all work as a team out here, share sightings, share knowledge. To see what happens with Shadow, the female leopard whose dominance over this area that we're driving through now. She's been seen mating on a number of occasions, and the first time was, I'm guessing, about 3 months ago, so there is a chance that some stage in the near future she could give birth, because they do have about a 3-month gestation period, 90 to 100 days. And it would be absolutely wonderful to have some leopard cubs that we can show you guys and watch grow up, just like the hyena cubs that we've been so lucky to watch grow up. But since I've been here, we haven't had any luck monitoring the updates or growth of any cats, leopard or lion. And in a whole year of being here, that's a little bit unlucky, I'd like to say. So I think we're building up credit for monitoring the growth of. And John in California just asked about any updates regarding the lion in this area, specifically the Inkahuma Pride. Last I heard they were on Sibambili, John, which is just north of Arathusa. It's all a bit confusing, but yeah, they weren't too far away, and hopefully they're going to pop in for a visit sometime soon. But no recent updates. The last I heard was about 2 or 3 days ago that they were just north of Arathusa, so not far away at all. The Birminghams are further south of us, and they've been mating with, it sounds like, 2 of the Styx lioness. Or at least some of them have, not all of them, not all 5 of the Birmingham males. It has been quite some time though since lion were on our property, but it ebbs and flows and it's normal, you know. Like anything in life, you can't have good fortune day in and day out. Otherwise that would just become common and it would no longer become good luck, I guess. And it's the same with being on safari. If the lions were here every day killing buffalo, then we would get bored of it. But now that they have been away for quite some time, Alyssa's just asked whether the lack of water could be a reason why the lions have left the area. And Alyssa, no, I don't think so. There's definitely enough water around on Djuma. There's water points on every single property in the Sabi Sands. Some more than others, but there's certainly enough water on Djuma to look after lion. I think what's causing them to from us, more likely just the ongoings between other lions, other coalitions causing the Birminghams to stay in one area to keep them, maybe the Matimbas away, or mating opportunities that are currently happening now with the Styx lioness are causing them to be away. So I don't think it's the water. What may have a slight impact on where the lions are moving is the amount of food available for the herbivores, and the more herbivores congregate in one area, it may be that the predators follow them, but there's always going to be enough food around regardless of where they're moving. So I think it's more likely that it's just lion business that's causing them to be away from us. Chatting a lot about the droughts, and Jose in Virginia would like to know what has caused this dry season. Well, Jose, it's not unnatural or uncommon for this part of Africa to go through drought-like conditions every 5 to 7 years. So apparently this is normal ongoing here, and it's the first time I'm going to be experiencing a drought in this area. But it is as of a result of a massive weather phenomenon called El Nino, which is affecting some parts of Africa with more rain than normal, and it's affecting other parts of Africa with less rain than normal. So it is said to be a cycle, and even though it will affect the herbivores negatively because their food requires water to grow, that may be a great thing for the predators, who are going to have a kind of bounty year or bounty season with lots of weakening herbivores around. So good opportunity for the predators to have lots of cubs, lots of babies, while the going's good. Not so much for the herbivores though, sadly. Like I said earlier, I mean, that is life on safari and life in general. It cannot always be times of plenty. If there was perfect seasons every year. So much for the herbivores though, sadly. But like I said earlier, I mean, that is life on safari and life in general.
With mud, so she'll actually lose all her feathers while she's in the nest, and that forms a nice warm spot for the babies and the eggs. And only once they are nearly fledged will the male from the outside and the female from the inside open up that mud so they can escape. Now come on, show your beak, show a bit of movement. But isn't that incredible? So to protect the nest from raiders, the female will not even leave the nest, and obviously that nice little small hole like that, she's able to defend that hole from the inside quite easily. You even get secure apartments out here in the bush, and the hornbills are pretty much as secure as you can get. Come on, show yourself now. Of course she's being difficult and not putting her beak through the hole anymore. You can see it's on the underside of the branch, so even it makes it more difficult for a predator to get to. And this wonderful African ebony or jackalberry So we just spotted the male sitting on a branch nearby with a morsel in his mouth and not scoffing it immediately. Gave us a good idea that the nest was there. I think we'll wait a little bit longer, hopefully for a bit of movement. Or even better for the male to come back and feed through the hole. Look at that. Not only is it got a wall built around the hole, it's also really, really camouflaged. No movement yet. Wonder where that male flitted off to. So, for those of you who might have missed, and you especially, Barbara, what species of bird has this nest? It is a red-billed hornbill. No such luck on the movement, and we get quite a few different species of hornbills that we see regularly. Red-billed and yellow-billed, as well as African grey and ground hornbill. Very occasionally we might get trumpeter and ground hornbills flying over this area. But we'll definitely have to check up on that nest again. Anna Marie's saying, hoping I spot some leopard or hear some alarm calls. She would love a Ferrari safari. Me too, Anna Marie, me too. And I'm sure Brian's on that board as well. So we're actually quite close to Buffalo's Hook waterhole at the moment, where I think Mvula might have possibly popped out during the evening. So we're going to go have a quick check around there. Good morning to Rain, who's 15 years old and from Ohio. Rain would like to know if I've ever been bitten or stung by anything that's required hospitalization. Unfortunately, yes. I've had malaria badly enough to be hospitalized when I was about your age, actually, Rain. I was about 14 or 15 when I had a very bad bout of malaria that put me into hospital. And then more recently, I was in and out of hospital with a rare form of rickettsia, which is a type of tick bite fever, a really strange one from the jungles of Central Africa. Twice that I've required hospitalization, once from a mosquito and once from a tick. So we're approaching the Buffalo's Hook waterhole now, checking carefully for tracks. Come on, Brian, fingers crossed. It's just going to be sitting there. Fingers and toes, Brian says. So we've been speaking quite a bit about babies as well this morning, being summertime and lots of babies around. And Jeffrey from Texas would like to know whether I've ever seen a baby duiker. Oh, not much here, apart from a very noisy lapwing. And Jeffrey would like to know whether I've ever seen baby duikers and what percentage of a duiker's diet consists of meat. You can see he's still very, very dry. Even though we did have a nice little shower, the water holes are still very, very empty. Well, Jeffrey, I've seen quite a few baby duikers, and duikers in this area, almost none of their diet will consist of meat, a very, very small percentage. On the other hand, meat or invertebrates is that although lots of people think rainforest is a feed on, so any mammal species that eats them needs special amylase produced by the pancreas to break down those poisons into a non-toxic form. So very interesting. The duikers here have been recorded eating meat, but very, very seldom. It is abnormal. With your forest duiker species, that would be more normal. Lots of little birds. Another very interesting animal, speaking of antelope that eat meat. Fortunately, I've only got a mammal book for Southern Africa here. I must dig out my African mammal book for you guys. And if you get the chance, I'd say go onto Google and research something called a water chevrotain. Now, this is a strange creature. It's not an antelope, it's not a pig, it's somewhere in between. And they even have remnant canines on the side of their face, and they also hunt birds, semi-aquatic. And we actually had one that lived in our camp in Gabon, or a pair of them, and they became very, very relaxed. You could stand a meter and a half from them, and they wouldn't run away. Water chevrotain. It sort of looks like a cross between a duiker and a pig, sort of fat, very bodied. And very interestingly, their behavior is very similar to carnivores. So it'll have multiple female territories with a dominant male that parades. So very similar to what like a leopard territories and habits are, except it's sort of a duiker / pig. It's its own sort of very strange family. So guys, we might have a little bit of signal breakup as I pop through this little deep drainage system. I'll be through it as quick as possible. Oh, hello, guineas. Go. Some helmeted guinea fowl. What are they feeding off there? Maybe harvested termites? So they've been in flocks up until this first big rain. Now they're going to pair off. So this is a male and a female, and they'll find a nice safe place to put a ground nest and rear some chicks. So during this time of the year, they pair off to breed. And then after the breeding season, they'll start forming those big flocks for safety in numbers again. Off their scuttle. So on yesterday's evening safari, while we were following Karula the leopard, Damon noticed... Oh, Damon, I'll get to your question in a second. Where's he gone? He's disappeared. There was a tiny little terrapin in this pan, but he's made a disappearing act. You can see the movement under the water. Oh. Obviously feeling much safer under the water. But Brian, off to the left of the pan, just above it, is an incredibly interesting thing. That is a foam nest frog nest, or a grey tree frog. And give me a second, I'll find a picture for you as well. And so what happens is that the frogs will form that nest and lay their eggs inside. And so it's quite moist inside, so it hardens on the outside and stays damp on the inside. And only once the tadpoles are finished feeding off their umbilical sacs, so they'll have a bit of food attached to them for the first part of their life, they will then drop out of that nest into the water. So it's sort of a way of a safe start in life for the foam nest frog or grey tree frog.